So, oh man, what do we learn this week about Stax in Legacy? First off, I'm sure I probably could have played better at some points. We ended up 2 and 3, which is not ideal. We had some awkward running sometimes, mana problems that hopefully aren't normal for this deck with so many lands, but the deck is powerful, and it does powerful things, and it plays in a really unique way. So if you like the keeping your opponent from playing Magic idea, I think this is the way to go in Legacy. So it appeals to a certain audience, a certain crowd, and if you're part of that crowd, then you'll probably really enjoy this deck. On the other hand, if you like attacking or good interactive games of Magic, this deck isn't for you. We don't have a fast clock. We're not going to close out the game quickly. I mean, when we actually had to win, and it wasn't our opponent scooping to some sort of pseudo lock, we were beating down with metal workers, with one-powered creatures, beating down with Mishra's factories, just not fast ways to close out the game. And there are some pretty disruptive cards for our deck. We didn't run into too much artifact hate, but we definitely could have. We ran into Blood Moon against Miracles twice, and that is worse than it looks. It makes it really hard for us to win. We tend to empty our hand for one or two big plays, like Smokestack or Metal Worker. And if something happens to one of those plays, like a Force of Will or something, things can go really wrong really quickly, and we just kind of do nothing. We also ran into some awkwardness where Wasteland wasn't as good as we thought, and that's really matchup dependent. A lot of matchups, Wasteland and the Wasteland lock is super good, but we just happened to run into a lot of matchups where it really wasn't. Like, we played Miracles, and our opponent searched out tons of basics. We played Death and Taxes, and we won that match, but our opponent was able to have a lot of planes to kind of negate the effect of the Wasteland. So I think the deck is solid. I think it's probably possible we eked out another win if I had played a little bit tighter, or had more experience with the deck is maybe a better way of putting it. You literally saw the first 5 matches I ever played with this build of Legacy Stax, so I'm sure there was some stuff as far as the sequencing and the order of play things. When is it correct to give up on your City of Traders to play a Mishra's Factory? There's a lot of weird, intricate plays where I think it's just a matter of playing this deck, and eventually you intuitively know, and that's Legacy in general, but I think to really play this deck well, it's going to take some experience, and I definitely didn't have experience with it. But it seems competitive. I don't really have any great suggestions as far as improving it. Some of the stuff is a little awkward. Powder Keg, okay, I guess that's for like extirpate or surgical extraction instead of just having all ratchet bombs, but it's basically a strictly worse ratchet bomb, so that's a little awkward, but overall, it felt pretty good. There's a weird dynamic to this deck where this is definitely like the prison artifact deck. You also see metal worker decks that are based on going big with mana, so you're trying to use that mana to, instead of just play like smokestacks and stuff, be able to cast something big. And I don't know if there's some way of combining those, but I did notice that in some of our games, when we actually untapped with our metal worker, we'd be able to tap it for like 8 or 10 or 12 mana, but our lines were like, play a second Trinisphere, play a Chalice. They just weren't all that impactful. So I don't know if having some more high-end stuff could actually be good for this deck. On the other hand, like, that works against what the deck's trying to do. Like, normally we're not going to have a ton of lands in play, because we want to be, like, wastelanding our opponent every turn with the lock. So I don't really know. The upside of this deck is, if you do decide to buy it and play with it, you get a lot of cards that would allow you to play like a 12-post type deck as well, or some sort of mud artifact deck, which is kind of the same idea of all the lands that tap for 2 mana, the Metal Worker, some of the same hate cards as well, but playing Worm Coils and Sundering Titans in big finishers like that. So you kind of get a 2-for-1, and there's ways you can kind of move away from the prison strategy to, I guess you'd call it like an aggro build of the deck, or a creature build of the deck. Anyway, that's been our Much Abrew for this week. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon.